Democrats are reportedly pushing for racial equity audits to bend big tech companies to their will, including massive fines of up to $20,000 per day for not complying. They even want to abolish the very idea of meritocracy, what we know as earning things based upon your skill. Coming up next on TechShark. Welcome to TechShark, bite-sized news for conservatives surfing the net. As if the race hustlers of the far left weren't powerful enough, Democrats are pushing for race politics to dominate big tech and the corporate world. The Washington Free Beacon reported December 13th that Democrats want to subject tech companies to mandatory racial equity audits conducted by their political allies, a move which could cement the party's control of Silicon Valley. The Beacon illustrated that these audits promise to make the already left-leaning tech world into a series of openly far-left, ideologically partisan organizations. In practice, equity auditors often push companies to hire more left-wing activists and former Democratic Party officials, often coming from the auditing organizations themselves. The audits also call for the abolition of standards of merit and the ability for a special executive to veto any company project. The Beacon summarized that one example, Color of Change, has already succeeded in using racial equity audits to shape big tech policy, including such examples as when the organization successfully pushed Facebook into completing an audit that called for more restrictions on Trump's posts, or when it pushed for Trump to be permanently banned from the platform, and even hired an Obama administration Justice Department official to lead the company's civil rights strategy. While it's common knowledge that conservative Christians are woefully underrepresented among big tech, liberal organizations like Color of Change instead focus on racial representation. The Beacon quoted rhetoric from Color of Change calling for hiring underrepresented groups and establishing a critical mass of employees that are aware of the origins and effects of white supremacy and anti-blackness across all vertical and horizontal work streams. The Beacon also explained that racial equity audits work as both a hellish blend of a grift to shake down corporations for cash and a means of weaponizing corporations into political tools. Racial equity audits are the chief service offered by diversity, equity, and inclusion consultants, a cottage industry connected by a revolving door of Democratic staffers and funded by liberal donors. Equity auditors have made a killing from school districts that pay handsomely for consultants to revamp curricula, the Washington Free Beacon has reported. Now, racial equity auditors are setting their sights on corporate America. Now here's the shark bite. Complacent conservatives once said that all the blue-haired social justice snowflakes would have a rude awakening when they tried to work in the real world. Now they run everything. They are the real world. And many of us are stuck yelling at our TVs or our phones.
I got an earful.
You might be wondering, how did we get here? The left has spent decades working together to take over institutions. Meanwhile, many conservative Americans have, as a matter of principle, wanted to avoid working together. Caring about what happens to us as a group is seen as a leftist tactic because we're all supposed to be individuals, right? Wrong. The Founding Fathers saw us as an extension of English civilization, despite the fact we rejected the British monarchy. The frontiersmen and cowboys we idolize were part of tight-knit communities that depended on each other to survive the wilderness. But I'm glad to say this is changing. We're getting back to teamwork. The Media Research Center's Free Speech Alliance has gathered nearly 100 organizations around the globe working together to protect the freedom to speak your mind and stop online censorship. A good comparison for this is like how parents are coordinating with conservative community organizers to stop critical race theory from being forced on their kids in schools. Now they know how to organize and lobby at school board meetings. It's up to the conservative movement to understand what's happening to the corporate world and figure out a game plan for how we retake big business from the same race hustling ideology. Imagine if Christian conservatives actually had the guts to push for a Christian audit, making sure Christian conservatives, who are still a massive part of the population, were well represented in the corporate and tech world. Imagine if we actually had a word to describe bigotry or oppression against Christians in a time when we've seen actual anti-Christian genocides in the Middle East. If life was a basketball game, we see the left is willing to pass to each other in order to win, while we pretend that the very idea of having a team is evil in itself. If you want to save the West, you gotta get practical. Start learning how to work together. You've been watching TechShark, brought to you by Free Speech America and the Media Research Center. Have a good week.